Welcome to Rootstem Gaming. This is Fran, and this is going to be my review of the brand new Kill Team box set. First off, what you will actually notice when you pick up the box is the massive amount of plastic that you actually get in the box set itself, mainly the buildings. The buildings are around about 4.5 inch tall compared to the previous 3-inch buildings, which means that a lot of the buildings are going to be a hell of a lot more taller and a lot more impressive than the original buildings that were released many years ago. I think back in the 4th edition of the actual game. Overall, the box set has a lot to look at and actual read, and of course always comes with the important new book smell. A lot of the book's beginnings deals with fluff and background. You'll probably find that a lot of veteran gamers will probably bypass this and pretty much go straight onto the core rules. The core rules are a slightly expanded version of the 40k rules. Little things have been added and expanded upon to make a closer game. The battle round is now played by both sides, so you've not got one person playing and then shooting and then another person playing and shooting. It's all done on initiative, which is done with 2d6 rather than a standard d6 like in Necromunda, and of course everything's kind of done turn by turn, player by player. Your charging is also done in your movement phase. This is where you can declare a charge, and there's a new option now. Rather than just pure overwatch to try and stop the charge, you can now kind of retreat, which is a 3-inch move away from the charging model, but if you do retreat, you're counted as falling back, and of course you can't do anything for the rest of the turn. There is a psychic phase. The psychic phase is short and sweet. The only 2 units I've managed to come across are units of Thousand Suns and the Grey Knights. They've both got a power called Vault, which is basically just a very dumbed down version of Smite. So rather than a D3 mortal wounds, it just causes 1 unless you roll an 11 plus, and then it causes D3. Now, changes to the shooting phase are quite drastic. You can actually in the movement phase make a player go ready. This means that they're basically not going to forfeit the movement, allowing them to be able to get a better shot or a greater shot during the shooting phase. Models that are ready actually fire first, and players take it in turns, starting with the player who's got the initiative to start firing. There's a lot of extra minuses as well, so you've still got the same standard ones of assault weapons. If you advanced in the previous movement phase, these are going to be -1 when you actually do shoot that particular weapon. But if you are at over half range, so for example a bolt gun has a range of 24 inches. If the opposing model is more than 12 inches away, but still within 24, it's a further -1 to hit. So it's basically like a long range for the weapon, making it -1, basically just trying to get you in close and possibly trying to nullify the effect of such a small game board. Cover's changed as well. Cover's actually going to give you an extra -1. It's pure line of sight, so if cover is intervening between yourself and the model, then it's still going to be a -1 to hit. So I can see a lot of 6s needed, to actually hit with a lot of actual squads, to be honest with you. 1s of course are always a miss. 6s in this are always a hit regardless of modifiers. Wounding is still the same as it is in the new Necromunda and new Warhammer 40,000. If you're equal, it's 4s. If you're greater, it's 3s. If you're twice as greater, it's 2s. Same vice, going down the scale. The only difference, of course, being on this one is if you don't get your +1 to your armor save if you're in cover. So that's gonna change a lot of saving, but of course it's going to be more difficult to hit, so you're going to find overcharging plasma guns might not be a great idea. Basically, when you reduce down to 0 wounds, the model is only taken out of action if you score 4 or more. Anything else is what's called a flesh wound. Pretty much nearly all characters can take up to about 3 flesh wounds before they are removed from battle. Some units have special abilities to ignore the first flesh wound, because if you have flesh wounds on you, you're pretty much -1 to hit in both aspects of combat and shooting, and you're +1 for further damage. So basically a unit with a flesh wound on there is more likely to become out of action then sort of suffering a second flesh wound. So I'll get my tongue in eventually. Weapons with multi-shot have also been clarified, which was always a little bit of a sticky situation when it came to kill team, because you always had that point where you had a big nasty heavy bolter that could fire 3 shots and you could hit one person, because of course the rules of kill team counted each model as a unit and you could only fire at one unit, blah 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 blah. Old edition no longer apply. Everything's now good with gravy. So this kind of brings me on to the last couple of sections of the core rules. Close combat, not really changed at all. There is an added -1 though to hit if there is cover actually between you and the attacker. So if you're fighting over a barrel or you're fighting between a ruin, then you're actually going to get a -1 to hit. It does clarify this more in the book. I'm not going to really put the image on here because I don't want to be subject to a Games Workshop strike, but once you've actually got the book, it kind of makes more sense and it kind of makes more understanding. And there is a morale test. Now morale is 2 different ways. You've got like a squad morale and then you've got individuals. There is minuses and pluses to this. Basically individuals that have taken flesh wounds have to take a standard morale test, which is your standard D6 plus how many flesh wounds you've suffered, and of course any pluses or minuses that apply, and this is compared to your standard leadership. There's also a squad leadership, very much old school Necromunda. If half of your squad is shaken, which is what happens if you become broken, you don't actually break, you just shake, and therefore you can't do anything for the next turn. If half your squad is broken, or of course have flesh wounds or have been taken out of action, then the squad is considered to be broken. You have to take a standard leadership test on 2d6, old school sort of 7th edition there, and if that fails, the whole unit is broken and is always taking tests at the end of every single turn. They have included stratagems into this edition, which is always a nice change of pace. A lot of the stratagems though are pretty cool because they actually revolve around your specialists. They are back. You know, you've got your heavy specialist, your sort of like your range specialist, your sniper specialist, your combat specialist. Each unit, some units can take access to certain ones, some units can't. So certain ones, when you think, oh, it's a close combat specialist, you can't really take the sniper. Specialist. It is still limited to the one has to be a leader, and you can have up to 3 specialists in your squad. Heavy specialist is quite unique, as it basically means if you're a heavy specialist, you ignore the movement penalty for moving and firing with heavy weapons. But the rest of the stratagems can revolve around different levels, which you don't get to the different levels unless you're really playing a campaign game or you set the levels beforehand. You could probably say to each other, we're going to set these to level 2 specialists. And then of course this is where the special stratagems kick in, and even more additional special rules for the specialist comes in as well. It would actually make me play more campaign games if I knew that my specialist was getting better, getting you know, a lot more gear and a lot more equipment, a lot more special rules, the more the campaign went on. The missions in the book are your typical fare, really. Take certain objectives, take this, capture this, try and get this off the board, try and get models off the board, kind of just rehashing sort of older missions and bringing them back. There's a couple of narrative player missions as well as some of the sort of match player missions. What is quite interesting with some of the match player missions though is that it's a game designed for 2 to 4 players. So there's actually setups for more than 2 players. It shows you kind of like a setup for 2 players and then a setup for 3 to 4 players. So that's always nice to know that you're not just all of you going to be in a random corner. Some of them are quite different. Some of them can put certain squads in the middle, surrounded by others. It just makes it nice to see that they are paying attention to multiplayer in these type of games, especially with it only being a squad versus squad combat. Multiplayer is going to be something that people in local clubs are going to do a lot more. And of course, the book does contain plenty of factions. My only disappointment with this particular section, because it pretty much has nearly everybody in there, except it doesn't have no Sisters of Battle, and it doesn't have no Inquisitorial Forces, which I would have thought, especially the Inquisitorial Forces, would have been a staple. They probably would have been, yes, they're definitely going to be in there. They may release one of them box sets that they're doing where you can get figures and terrain together as part, just to give you the rules for the Sisters. Maybe when they release the Sisters, apparently it's going to be 2019, so next year. So when the Sisters do get released, they may release a Kill Team expansion for them, and probably the same when they actually do an Inquisitor book. They may include the fact that you can actually include Inquisitors in any sort of Imperial kill team, or maybe even any Heretic kill teams if you're going to have some Rogue Inquisitors out there. But all in all, I believe it's a very solid effort from Games Workshop. The box set is definitely worth the price tag that it's been given, especially for the terrain that you actually get in there. I can see a couple of people buying these sets just for the terrain alone and then selling the items individually. So you may be able to pick up some of the books and maybe even some of the figures cheap from your various different second-hand areas, such as at eBay and local stores. So hopefully they're going to keep up this awesomeness with the box sets. So far so good in 2018, and when Titanicus comes out, I'm hoping to be able to do another review for that, and let's hope that that box set is just as good as this one. I've been Fran, thank you very much for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. I have t-shirts from Teespring. The links will always be in the videos and the descriptions on my YouTube. And if you want to see anything in particular, please don't hesitate to ask and send me a message regarding it. Thanks.